What's going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday out there. Hopefully, we're all having a wonderful hump day. And we do have some pretty active things ongoing today. But before we get to that, I do want to apologize for not having a video yesterday. Unfortunately, I was dealing with some internet issues yesterday evening. And, unfortunately, I can't really force my internet provider to do its job as much as I wish I could. So, anyway, I apologize about not being able to get a video out last night. But we are back today with an update for you. And we have had some overall changes in the forecast. So this will be a pretty important video as we kind of discuss some of those changes. Overall, the same pattern is still ongoing, but there have been some important things to discuss that have changed. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump right into it. So taking a look at satellite imagery on our Wednesday, you'll notice some pretty active kind of areas. First of all, this is a pretty impressive low pressure spinning away up here. This is what is going to bring that cooler and drier weather this weekend for a lot of folks in the east, but it is also going to bring some storms and some severe weather really starting tomorrow. So that will be an important detail to focus on. Also today, we've had some pieces of energy really over the past 24 hours, I should say, that has kind of crossed this area that we talked about, and it has caused a bit more severe weather than originally expected. In fact, last night here where I live, in upstate South Carolina, we had some strong storms rolling through with actually some pretty impressive rotation on them. So there's been a bit of a surprise recently with some of these storms getting a little bit stronger and potentially being a bit more tornadic than we might have had originally thought. Sorry, I'm getting caught up in my words here. Even today, up near Rocky Mount, North Carolina, where I've spent a lot of time storm chasing before, we had pretty impressive tornado rip on through some communities there, so definitely praying for those folks. And I know it's kind of unexpected a little bit. There hadn't been that much talk about any big time tornado threat out there today, but that's how the weather works sometimes. Of course, this is still a practicing science, and there are plenty of tweaks to forecasts to go on well into the future. So taking a look at kind of the current hazards map and other things that we're looking at here, including radar imagery, we are still dealing with this big heat wave in the western part and southern part of the country. That part of the forecast has held on really nicely. That is continuing just like we had originally expected. Some not so things that we maybe had expected is what's really going on here into this kind of area right here. So again, this is kind of on the edge of this high pressure. So this high pressure has trended a bit weaker than we originally had thought. So with that occurring, a lot of this warm weather is not going to get quite as far east. And in fact, we're actually going to get more of a stormy pattern for some folks out here compared to a heat wave. Originally, we kind of expected this heat wave to stretch all the way here into the Carolinas and Virginia and Georgia. But the overall trend has been for this high pressure to not quite get that far and kind of stop about where it's at right now and have more of these kind of storm structures to just funnel on through this area, bringing more of a stormy pattern compared to a hot pattern. So slightly kind of a break from the heat, but also, definitely more of a dangerous pattern that we're dealing with out here, including even a tornado watch ongoing out here into eastern North Carolina, again, because of that tornado threat that kind of snuck up on us a bit today. Now, we are also seeing some strong storms up here into Minnesota. This was more expected, and this is definitely verifying as we thought, including even a tornado warning up there, kind of out here into extreme northern Minnesota. But that is definitely continuing up there. Now, as we go into tomorrow, the severe weather threat will continue, and again, a lot of this is going to be because of that low pressure currently up in Minnesota is going to continue to swing off to the south and east, getting into sections of the Midwest and the Ohio and Tennessee River Valley. So a pretty big slight risk tomorrow for places like Detroit, much of Ohio, including much of Indiana, Kentucky, extreme western Pennsylvania there from Pittsburgh up towards Erie. But we also have a slight risk down here into the Carolinas for a complex of storms that is going to move on through during the afternoon tomorrow, and then also another area back out here into the plains. So tomorrow could be a pretty active severe weather day for a lot of folks. And speaking of that, taking a look at future radar imagery here, as we move this map ahead into this evening, again, really kind of focus on this piece of energy up into Minnesota as that moves off to the south and east overnight tonight. So as that moves off, again, some of the storms will die down as the night goes on, but once we get into early morning tomorrow and into the afternoon, expect a couple areas of storms to develop. Likely we'll have one big cluster down into Tennessee, Kentucky, and this is what will cause that severe weather threat into the Carolinas as this kind of crosses the Appalachian chain and gets into North and South Carolina by the time we get into the afternoon hours. So as we get into the afternoon hours, again, we'll have these storms kind of working on through the Carolinas, bringing severe weather potential, including mainly damaging winds, but can't rule out a brief isolated tornado for you folks there, as we saw today. But another area, of course, up here into the Midwest as well, through kind of the Great Lakes region and back down towards the Ohio River Valley. Also seeing some of those strong storms tomorrow afternoon, before kind of then working on through the Northeast as we go through the evening hours of tomorrow. Now, as we get into our Friday afternoon, as this loads a little bit, sorry, it's running a little bit slow, but as we get into our Friday afternoon, expect pretty widespread showers and storms up into the northeast, and even some showers and storms down into the southeast. But I think overall a bit less widespread compared to what we will see tomorrow on Thursday. So again, going into this weekend, we are still expecting that cool down that we had talked about. So you'll notice as we go throughout the next couple of days, this big area of blue is still expected to kind of take over the east here as we get some pretty big time troughing. And this is definitely going to lead to a pretty comfortable feeling weekend for a lot of folks here east of the Mississippi, and especially into kind of the Midwest and the Ohio River Valley, where I think we're really going to feel quite comfortable. Now, that should last through at least early next week before likely going into the long range, it heats back up again, but we'll definitely enjoy this spell of quieter and cooler weather this weekend. So again, severe weather to worry about tomorrow. Also probably Friday up into the northeast, dealing with some severe weather and even scattered showers and storms for areas further to the south of there. But once we get into this weekend, expect things to cool down and dry out a bit as well. So can't rule out still some afternoon showers and storms this weekend, but overall drier likely than what we are going to see the next 48 hours. And a lot of that's going to just be because of cooler and drier Canadian air working on in. So taking a look at the temperatures as well this weekend. Again, expecting these blues to work their way in. And again, this is going into this weekend and likely through early next week. So this is for Saturday night into early Sunday. You'll notice pretty widespread below average temperatures for a lot of folks into the Midwest, the Ohio River Valley, and other areas of the east here. Before, again, I think going into the middle and end of next week, things heat back up with more widespread reds taking over the map. So the other good part about this is the dew point. Again, I do expect things to get a bit drier this weekend. So this is going into Saturday and Sunday here. You'll notice overall these 70 dew points, which is really when things start to get uncomfortable, are going to be pretty well confined to Florida and the Gulf Coast. So places like Atlanta, Charlotte, Birmingham, Jackson, Mississippi will be a lot more comfortable with dew points only getting into the 60s on Saturday and Sunday, well, specifically Sunday, and temperatures only in the 80s. So this is going to feel really nice for July standards, and especially areas further north of there, kind of up through the Appalachian chain, up into Pennsylvania. Really nice weather this weekend, with it being a lot drier and more comfortable before once again going into the middle and end of next week. Those dew points work their way back in and that humid weather returns. Now, one more thing I did want to mention for you here at the end of this video is we are expecting a bit of a pickup in the tropics going through the next week or two. In fact, the National Hurricane Center does have an area we're watching out here for the potential of tropical development past kind of 4 or 5 days once this current wave gets out here a bit closer to the Caribbean. So we'll definitely watch that, and we'll go more in depth kind of through the next couple of days as we get a little bit more info on that. So again, I apologize for not getting a video out yesterday. Also, I'm sorry this video was a little short. I might sound a little stuffy. Unfortunately, I'm dealing with a little bit of sinus issues right now, so that's part of the reason why this video is a little bit condensed. I apologize about that, but unfortunately, it is what it is. With that said, though, I hope you have a great rest of your Wednesday. And of course, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comments. Since this video was a bit shorter, I'll definitely try to get around to answering those. But anyway, as I was saying, have a great rest of your Wednesday, and I will see you all tomorrow.